So good to be with you guys for our next daily devotion. We are in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. We have 5 verses today. And if you're just jumping into these devotions and I kind of read this context, you're going to be like, what is going on here? But if you've been with us and you've been with us daily, you'll kind of have the natural flow of what is happening here in context. But let me just kind of speed you up. The saints in Jerusalem are suffering and they're in a famine. They need help. They need resources. And so Paul, as he's church planting, has gone around collecting basically different churches and different saints from around the region where he's been church planting, resources to bring back to Jerusalem to bless those saints. So it's a beautiful way that the Gentile church that's being planted and established is going to help their Jewish brothers and sisters in Christ who are suffering majorly back home in Israel and back home in Jerusalem. And so as Paul is going around to collect this offering, that's where we're going to kind of land ourselves here today. And Paul is talking directly to the Corinthian church. Hopefully now that'll all make sense. So here we go. Now it was superfluous for me to write to you about the ministry for the saints, for I know your readiness, of which I boast about you to the people of Macedonia. So if you had Corinth, above Corinth to the north of Greece is Macedonia. And that's where we will see a bunch of different churches, but one that maybe most familiar with would be the Thessalonica church. And so he's like, the churches up there in Macedonia, I boast about you guys in Corinth, all to them, saying that Achaia, and that's where Corinth is at, has been ready since last year. Okay, Corinthian church has, at one time with the Apostle Paul, promised a very generous gift to be a part of this collection that will go back into Jerusalem. And so Paul is now, as he's been traveling around, is boasted about how much this church in Corinth was pledging to give to the saints. About your zeal has stirred up most of them. So it's their zeal and their giving is stirring up the other churches. But I am sending the brothers so that our boasting about you may not prove empty in this matter, so that you may be ready, as I said you would be. Otherwise, if some Macedonians come with me and find out that you are not ready, we would be humiliated, to say nothing of you for being so confident. So basically what Paul is saying is like, okay, you guys have promised this pledge. I've boasted you about it everywhere else. Now we're going to come to pick it up, but before we actually come to pick it up, I'm going to send some people ahead of me just to make sure that you guys are straight and will actually give that amount. Because if I come with some of the leaders from Macedonia and you guys don't pledge that, we're all going to look like kind of fools here. And you go, okay, well, why would Paul even go this route? Well, you got to remember the false teachers have invaded the Corinthian church. They basically said that Paul is doing this for his own personal gain. This is not to really help the saints out in Jerusalem. They're calling Paul not even an apostle. Hey, he might not even be saved. You shouldn't be listening to him. So Paul has kind of cleared all that up now with the Corinthians. They have repented. They went the wrong direction following the false teachers. They've come full circle and now have repented and are back in the good graces with the Lord and with Paul. And so now Paul is bringing this up. Okay, this gift is coming around as I head back to Jerusalem. Verse 5, so I thought it necessary to urge the brothers to go on ahead to you and to arrange in advance for the gift that you have promised, so that it may be ready as a willing gift, not as an expectation. So what is our point today? Like, how do you put this into practical terms? This is kind of more just like a quick little context on history. But what we can see here, and here's something that is beautiful, is that these saints in Corinth have a very generous gift to give to other saints who are really struggling and who are really suffering. And I love how Paul says, and this is our application today for you and I. This should be the heartbeat for you and I when we give. A lot of times we will pledge things. A lot of times we will intend to give to something. You may be willing as a willing gift. Everything that we do in Christ, in your local church, mission groups, maybe it's different individuals, maybe it's a certain ministry that has really tugged upon your heart, to realize that we are called by Christ himself, not as a demand or a command, but to give willingly to the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I just want to encourage you and myself and anybody who comes across this video that when we get opportunities to give forth, we want to give forth to churches or to missionaries or to Christian institutions that are gospel-centered, where you know that the gospel is being proclaimed, Christ is being proclaimed, and it's the correct gospel. And then we also want to be able to see that those who are gospel-centered, who are genuinely believers in Christ, whether they be churches or missionaries, we should always have a pulse on those who are in hard times. And we could be that source of encouragement through our giving. And there's many people across this globe, missionaries and churches, Christian organizations that are suffering right now. And so one of the things that you can continue to do, and I want to continue to do in myself, in my own life, and with my family's life, is, are there needs outside of my immediate needs that I see within the context of even my local church? And if the Lord has put a burden upon my heart, maybe, just maybe, I can give willingly and be a blessing to them. But I tend to, in my own life, to make sure that that doesn't come as I forsake my local body. For what God has for you and I is He called us to a local body to be the place where we bring all of our life together, our faith together, and our resources together for the glory of God. So hopefully that's an encouragement to you. Love you guys, and I look forward to being with you soon. God bless you.